2017 FEI event, Mike Maddock, founding partner and CEO of Maddock Douglas.
Morning. So yesterday you heard about grade school and high school. Just out of college, my first job was at a company called Graphic Systems Incorporated in Carroll Stream, Illinois. And it was a small company, so they brought me into the conference room, and there were about 30 employees around a conference room table. And he said, "This is Mike Maddock, he's a new art director. This is Tom, this is Jody, this is Ralph, this is Ruth, this is Ruth, this is Ruth." And my eyes locked in on this beautiful Scottish princess, Ruth Carol McCausland. And you know in cartoons where your eyes go, wah? That was me. And I actually went home. I couldn't hear anything after seeing Ruth. So I went home and I called my mother and said, "Hey, I met the girl I'm going to marry today." And she goes, "That's nice, dear." But I meant it. And this was bad news for Ruth because she'd been dating the same guy for 5 years. So it was very uncomfortable. And for the next 8 months, I made a complete idiot out of myself. I had one idea after another idea after another idea trying to get Ruth's attention. They have a phrase for this now. It's called sexual harassment. But I was young and naive and I didn't care. And so 8 months in, it turns out a guy named Joe was having his birthday and he wanted to have Chinese food delivered. So I hatched this plan, and the night before the party, I went to a bulk food store and bought all these fortune cookies. And I took tweezers and tweezed out all the fortunes, took an old-fashioned typewriter and typed up the fortunes, and then waited till the end of the meal for the fortune cookies to be opened. So at the end of the meal, people start popping over their fortune cookies, and all of them say things like, "Choose Mike. Mike would be nice. Mike equals soulmate." And so that was 28 years ago, and Ruth and I have been married for 26 years. So it has a happy ending. Thanks. Believe me, better 3/4. The other thing was, that was the best job ever because I got to meet my other soulmate, Wes Douglas, who's one of the founding partners of Maddock Douglas. And he's been drawing. He's been in this room. He's an incredibly gifted illustrator, and this is his passion. So he's been drawing each one of the sessions. So if you're interested in having a chronology of what's happening in here, bring by your business card and we'll send this to you. And FEI is actually going to send out a packet of all these illustrations about what's happening on stage. And so why do I tell that story? Well, that brings us to the first paradox of today. What makes you feel weak is what makes you feel strong. What makes you feel weak is what makes you feel strong. This is a critically important insight when it comes to innovation. Larry Walters had a dream. Larry Walters wanted to fly. But unfortunately for Larry, he was born with really bad eyesight. So he couldn't get a pilot's license. He couldn't get into the military. He could barely get a driver's license. But Larry was an idea guy. Larry was a dreamer. Larry figured that all he needed to make his dream of flight come true was a vehicle. And in this case, he chose his favorite lawn chair, which he named Inspiration One. He'd need some kind of propulsion system. And in this case, he acquired illegally 80 weather balloons, which he attached to Inspiration One. Larry's unplanned plan was to float above his backyard on Inspiration One, eat a sandwich, drink a beer, maybe a 6-pack of beer, and take some pictures, talk to people on a walkie-talkie, and when his maiden voyage was over, take out a BB gun and shoot out the balloons and float gently back down to his backyard. How's that sound to you? What could possibly go wrong? So on the day of his maiden voyage, he calls to his girlfriend. She comes out in the backyard. She looks up. There's Larry, 50 feet above his Jeep, which is tethered to Inspiration One. And he says, "Honey, cut the cord. It's time to fly." She says, "Larry, you're out of your mind. You're really going to do this?" He goes, "Cut the cord." She goes, "You're an idiot. Cut the cord. Snip." This is where you cue the something bad is about to happen music. Because within seconds, true story, within seconds, Larry Walters is floating 16,000 feet above his backyard, and he's a little freaked out. Right about now, commercial jetliners are flying by and reporting to the tower what appears to be a guy in a lawn chair floating through the sky. So Larry drinks a beer, he has another beer, takes some pictures, calls his girlfriend on his walkie-talkie, says it's beautiful, everything's cool, takes out his BB gun, shoots a balloon, nothing happens, shoots another balloon, still nothing, shoots a third balloon, and then he drops the BB gun. But Larry, our hero, is lucky, if nothing else. And so eventually, the balloons start to lose pressure, he loses altitude, he gets tangled up in the main power lines that feed Long Beach County, thus taking out the power for the entire county for the next 4 hours. He climbs down a utility pole where he is promptly arrested for violating all kinds of FAA regulations. Prize number one. About 2 weeks later, he's named, he gets the Bonehead of the Year award by the Dallas Daily News. He's fined $4,000 for said FAA regulations. And then about a month later, the coup de grace, Larry Walters comes in runner-up for the Darwin Awards. Now, the Darwin Awards are given to people that improve the human species by eliminating themselves from it. And Larry came in second because he survived. So the first time I heard this story, I thought, oh my gosh, what a bonehead. And then I remembered Father Joe, and to be nice. Then I had this horrifying realization that I'm Larry Walters. Yeah, and I hope you are too. That story was told to me by Dr. Ed Hallowell, who's the leading authority on ADD. He makes the point that wherever there's brilliance, wherever there's innovation, there's a little bit of crazy. There has to be. And you see this in organizations that are able to take on convention. We heard it yesterday. If you want to start a category, you have to be bold. So you see it everywhere where great things happen. As a kid, I was a big fan of Disney, Walt Disney, the Magic Kingdom, the happiest place on earth, the talking mouse. I loved Walt Disney. And then I started doing research on Walt Disney. And the more I found out about Walt Disney, the more I started to respect his brother. There's this story. It's Monday morning. Here comes Walt, chain smoking, whistling, gets into the office, and there's Roy. And Roy's done this beautiful mind thing on a blackboard where he's crunching numbers. And Roy says, I've been here all weekend, Walt. You know that little idea you had on Friday afternoon, your little idea? That little idea is going to cost us over $2 million. $2 million, Walt. To which Walt responds, Roy, why do you bother me with these insignificant details? When you see innovation, wherever there's a Walt, there's a Roy, there's a yin, there's a yang, there's a soulmate. We call this the idea monkey and ringleader mindset. Which one are you? So yesterday I told you that I'm here, my purpose is to inspire and empower curiosity. What's interesting is those two things are on edge. Idea monkeys inspire, ringleaders empower. Idea monkeys have big ideas, ringleaders actually make the ideas happen. So luckily, Oprah agrees with me on this. She was on Morning Joe. I knew there was something going on with these two. They're engaged now. Did you hear that? The sexual tension, you can cut it with a knife. Anyway, so they asked her about her new movie, The Butler, and Joe Scarborough didn't want to talk about her movie. Listen to what Oprah says when asked, what's going on with your network?
What has been the steepest learning curve for you starting a network?
Oh my goodness.
There's so many, I'm sure.
The steepest learning curve is you've got to surround yourself with people who don't just talk about the vision, but know how to execute it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth for anything. Whether you're starting a cupcake company, whether you're starting a motion picture business, you got to have people who can execute.
So when this was recorded, Oprah had lost roughly $400 million on her network. Now, Oprah is one of the greatest entrepreneurs ever to grace the Windy City. She's amazing. She literally transformed the west side of the Loop with her genius. But part of her genius was surrounding herself with operators. Oprah would have big ideas and the operators would get it done. Just after this interview, she literally cleaned house and brought in the operators. So see how she does now. Again, there's someone that inspires big ideas, and there's someone that gets it done. The Wright brothers are the same. You have Orville and Wilbur Wright. Orville was the truant, the class clown. He got terrible D's in school and F's, and his parents were very worried, like mine were. And then there was his older brother, the good son, straight A student, full ride scholarship to Yale. And then his senior year in high school, he took a hockey puck to the face, and it knocked out all his teeth. And he decided he didn't want to go to school anymore. He was going to stay home and work on the family business, the bike shop, thus saving his brother's life. Because his brother had this dream of flying. And every time he wanted to put more horsepower on that thing, he'd say, hold on a second. Let's run an experiment. Let's be pragmatic. Maybe it's about wing design and lift and not horsepower. And together, the brothers gave us flight, the yin and the yang. So I want to see who's in the room. If you are more like Walt Disney, if you have this idea monkey mindset, this picture makes you feel strong. If you have an idea monkey on your leadership team, meetings sound like this.
Hey, look, a dog!
Hi there. My name is Doug. My master made me this collar so that I may talk, squirrel.
Some of you are looking at each other. If you're a ringleader, if you're more like Roy Disney, this makes you feel strong. Now, this is like ringleader porn. You know it when you see it. I can't even look at this, but there are some people out there going, no, totally. So I would change that one box around. All right, so So here's the thing. Idea monkeys are about divergence. They're about possibility. They're always about what's next. Another idea. Colby is a great way to understand if you're an idea monkey. If you're a quick start on Colby, you're an idea monkey. They think anything is possible. And here's the dangerous part. Idea monkeys have jazz hands. They have sparkle fingers. They can walk into a room and convince you that this idea, this one, is going to change the world. The issue is that tomorrow it's going to be another idea that's going to change the world. And sometimes you believe them. And sometimes they're right. But oftentimes they're wrong. And then there's the ringleader. The ringleader is about convergence. There's a Greek word, diapharanta. It means focus on the essential, not the important. Let's prove it before we even do it. Let's make sure it is possible. Stay the course. They're operators. They don't want to hear about new ideas. They want to make the idea that we decided on last year even better. So on Colby, you're a fact finder and a high follow through. And you can see that under pressure, these two mindsets really go after each other. And you can see that when an industry or a company is under pressure, if you're out of balance, really bad things happen. So, which leads us to this paradox. Our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses. What makes you strong makes you weak. And this is true for leadership, and it's true for companies. So, when you have this balance of a ringleader and idea monkey at the top, and you have teams that are balanced out, awesome things happen. This convergence and divergence is in balance, and you are able to change the world more readily. You are able to balance that, the revolutionary idea and the evolutionary idea that we talked about yesterday. So very quickly, I just want you to answer this question in your head. I think I'm more like Walt Disney because, or I think I'm more like Roy Disney because. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand here in a second. Just think about that. Are you more like Walt or Roy? So show of hands. How many people in the audience think they're more like Walt Disney, the idea monkey mindset? Okay, so you are my troop. Let's have ideas together later. Okay, thank you. Now, and keep your hands up for a second because I have something to say to you. How many people in the audience feel like they're more like Roy Disney, the ringleader? Okay, please listen to me because I mean this. You complete me. See, I had a Jerry Maguire moment too. And I say this with humility. Our company went through millions and millions of dollars, blew through millions of dollars, because we were working on too many things. I mean, parents missed their kids' baseball tournaments, soccer tournaments, gymnastics tournaments, because they were working on something that we deemed important. And then there was another thing and another thing. It was only when we realized that we were out of balance that things got back on track. What about you? What does your leadership team look like? Are you in balance or out of balance? The reason it matters is because idea monkeys are called entrepreneurs, and they're out of business in 18 months to 3 years on average. But look what's happening to Fortune 500 companies. You heard this yesterday. I was asked to sit on a board of a Fortune 50 company a few years ago, and it was an innovation board, and someone whispered in my ear that it had been 13 years since this company had launched a new product, service, or business model. 13 years. But man, could they Six Sigma. Man, could they mitigate risk. And I'll give you a hint. That was Thomas Edison's company. So that's what happens. The operators take over, and they get really good at doing that one idea better and better and better, but really bad at taking risks. And as we know, you have to be able to take risks in order to make things happen. This trend, as you saw this slide yesterday, the future is punching us in the face. So this point becomes more and more important. Are you in balance or are you out of balance? The data is stunning. So here's the good news. When you do design thinking, it's about divergence and convergence and divergence and convergence. And I would argue that the companies that are great at innovation actually, number one, are unbelievably good at finding an insight or a job to be done, which is what Clay's going to talk about in a few minutes. They know how to do that. We'll talk about it later today, to find that target. And then, importantly, they have a toolbox that is full of divergent and convergent practices that make the idea monkeys and ringleaders feel strong together. It plays to their strength. So you're diverging and converging all the way through, and that's how you focus on the ideas that change the world. So that's the lesson. Learning to to balance the tension between divergence and convergence, between the operators and the dreamers. It's all about balance. Okay, so I'll end with a quick story. Jimmy John's, freaky fast subs. I know Jimmy and I knew Jim. We just lost Jim about a year ago, God rest his soul. I actually knew Jim before I knew Jimmy. And I actually had lunch with Jim about a year and a month ago out in California. And he told me this story. It was Jimmy's freshman year at Eastern Illinois University. And Jim got the call that no dad wants to get. It was his son. And it was 12 weeks into his freshman year. And he said, "Dad, I hate school. I suck at school. I've always sucked at school. Why am I at school?" And Jim, like most fathers wouldn't say, said, "Well, fuck it, son. What do you want to do?" And Jimmy said, "I think I want to start a sandwich shop." Now, what could possibly go wrong? A freshman year college graduate, or dropout I should say, competing against McDonald's and Wendy's and Subway, what could possibly go wrong? But here's the thing. Jim said, "Okay, that sounds good. Are you open to a little help?" And he said, "Of course, Dad, I'll take your help." What you need to know about Jim, Sr., is that he's an operator. Jim had sold his companies for $200 million. He was an engineer. He had patents about systems and how to make things go. Now this year, Jimmy John's is going to sell over $2 billion worth of sandwiches. You don't sell $2 billion worth of sandwiches unless you're measuring every slice of tomato, every strip of lettuce, and they do. But more importantly, you don't sell $2 billion worth of sandwiches unless a ringleader father loved his idea monkey son. Who completes you? Who's your soulmate? I want you to think about that today. And I want you to think about these questions as we go on. Is our leadership team in balance? So this is the treasure hunt you're on today. Are we in balance? How do we manage the jobs to be done? Are we into ideas? Are we more excited about ideas? Are we more excited about insights? Insights kick the out of ideas. Do we have the tools and the people to do both convergence and divergence? Do you know how to do both of those? That's the treasure hunt for today. Okay,